All right, good morning, everyone. Good to see all of you. Nice to see Adrian and Sarah here and Ruth back from her trip. It's good to be here this morning. I actually kind of changed my the title of my lesson from what I took a while to think of the title, so I couldn't figure out how to phrase it. And so this morning I wanted to talk about the search for truth and its consequences. And part of that, we will look at that passage at the end because it kind of does cover that topic. We will go to Philippians, but it'll be at the end. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I was reading the news, and there were all kinds of interesting events which weren't really talked about much, but they were in the news. So that I'll put up some news articles first. They seem disconnected, but they actually do. I will get to the point in a minute. So there was this article. This was like a couple of weeks back, and this will start in the August from the 1st of August. There was a change in the legislation, and every GP in Australia will now be able to prescribe abortion pills. So that's mifepristone, and that only works up to 9 weeks pregnancy, but it's still a big change. And it's quite interesting when the person was interviewed. This is Jack Kearney, who is the Assistant Minister of Human Services, I think. So they asked her why Australia had moved so slowly compared to other countries. And Ms. Kearney said, "That's a good question. We were kind of late coming to this. You may remember that it was a very sensitive issue when it was first introduced." She said, "We're really pleased for the women of Australia that these changes have been made. It fits into the government's agenda of strengthening Medicare, also working towards all health professionals working to their full scope of practice. So it's a good thing that other health professionals can work with women in this situation. It's good news." And it's, it is interesting that she mentioned there was a very sensitive issue when it was first announced. That assumes that it's no longer a sensitive issue, firstly, and that she's saying all health professionals working to their full scope of practice. So it's saying that if you can't prescribe this pill, you're not engaging in proper health practice. So it's quite an interesting take on abortion, and it's interesting that the thinking has evolved so far that it used to be, safe, legal, and rare. I don't think you can actually ban it outright. I don't think that's what society will accept, which is how it is. There was never. I think I was actually debating this with my friend the other day, who's another radiologist. Anyway, he always says he's pro-choice, and I just pointed out that, and then he said, "Oh, what about people with ectopic pregnancies and or like when the fetus is not viable, what do you do then?" I say, there's never been a debate if the mother's or baby's life is at risk. It's always necessary to save the mother. There's never any question about that, right? And I pointed out that really, why do people always talk about like rape or incest, all the extreme cases? You should always talk about what happens 90% of the time. It's the same argument with baptism. What if you're in the desert and there's no water? What are you supposed to do then? Why talk about that when that's not going to happen? You always argue, people always like to argue at the extremes when the reality is the bulk of the argument should always be on the common ground. But anyway, that's just one. I obviously can't talk about abortion entirely. It's a whole lesson itself. But I do think that's one element we keep in mind first. Then the next article is just from like a week ago, a few days ago. Teens as young as 14 could access voluntary assisted dying in the ACT. So Human Rights Minister Tara Cheney, this is the state minister in Canberra, ACT, told the Australian she was considering allowing minors as young as 14 to be eligible for assisted suicide, with the ACT for the first time able to legalize euthanasia after being given the green light by the federal parliament. And she rejected the requirement by other Australian jurisdictions that assisted suicide only be accessed by people with an arbitrary expected death timeline of between 6 to 12 months. So basically, she's saying anyone, there's no timeline to dying. anyone who can say that they're suffering in some way can access it, even kids at 14. I mean, to me, I think that's getting wild, right? That's getting a bit crazy. But that is just the unhinged nature of the whole thing. But anyway, that's in the ACT. And then on a separate note, more frivolous note, in the Netherlands, a transgender model broke boundaries with beauty pageant win. And she was the first transgender woman who's actually obviously a man to win Miss Netherlands. And it's the first time in the 94-year history that a trans woman has been crowned winner. And she'll be the second. So there's actually two of them taking part in Miss Universe. Now, I'm not advocating beauty pageants, but I'm just saying that this is an interesting reflection on how our society has moved and evolved over the years. So I guess today we're going to look at the search for truth and for answers. And we're going to ask some fundamental questions. And as we reflect on them, we will see the consequence and the conclusion. So these questions are, firstly, is life valuable? Is it valuable? Why is it valuable? And why is life important? Is there truth? Is there facts that don't change? Can we find those facts and truth out? And can we truly live and have meaning without God? All right, because obviously as Christians and people who believe in the Bible, we believe that you find the truth through the Bible, right? And as we explore this question, we'll turn to Romans chapter 1. Obviously, that's a famous and familiar passage, and it does address this topic quite directly. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. Therefore God gave them up to the lust of their hearts, to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies amongst themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worship and serve the creature rather than the Creator. And then the last bit of the passage. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness, gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. So it's actually a very powerful passage because it actually reflects exactly the problems we have in the world today. And that is entirely because we have kind of taken God out of the picture. If God and truth is no longer in the picture, then anything basically goes. Because reality is no longer bounded. I mean, because reality is no longer bounded by facts and truth. Like 2 + 2 doesn't actually equal 4 anymore. It actually equals whatever you feel like it should equal to. And if you think of that last example, that's actually the same issue when it came to that beauty pageant when men can compete with women, and if men are the same as women and women are the same as men, then it's reality doesn't exist anymore. I mean that's basically it. And if you look at the consequences of removing God and truth, you end up with materialism because that's all you have. People are narcissistic because you only care about yourself, right? Because there's nothing greater or more long-lasting than yourself. You can be selfish because there's nothing bigger than yourself. You only seek after your own pleasure and your own desire. And then when you realize that that's not enough, you become depressed and you need to have some euthanasia because it's pointless. And that's basically what's happened. I mean, to be fair, depression is real. There are some people who are clinically depressed. That's a thing. But I'm saying that the general mood of society has become more aimless and purposeless. Okay, and there is more unrighteousness because people don't know what is righteous anymore because there's no more truth. Everything is subjective. So the question you ask yourself is, are people actually happy being like that? And I was looking it up. In Australia, they did this survey of world global happiness. I don't know how the question's phrased, but it's been declining ever since it started in 2013, but the peak was at 2014 and it's been declining ever since. You could argue that we are very wealthy and rich, we've got everything, but I think in many ways you lose a sense of meaning and purpose. Okay, when you give up truth, when you think that there is no real goal to life, no real answer, no real meaning. I mean, if you go back to Genesis chapter 3, 5 to 7, there is for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and there was a delight to the eyes, and the tree was to be desired to make all wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave some to her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And it goes on, this first part of 7. And the answer is, can people be happy was she happy she ate the fruit? I mean, are people happy to just do whatever you like? Like when you let your kids just run around like maniacs, are they happy? They probably are quite happy in the short term, to be fair. And in the world, most people are like that. They have a great time. You see them, they're having a great time. They're kind of happy in the short term. But if you remember Romans chapter 2, 6 to 10, God will render to each according to his works, who by patience in well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality. He will give eternal life. For those who are self-seeking and do not obey the truth. And Romans 2 follows from Romans 1, right? So obviously, we just looked at Romans 1. So Romans 2 was the conclusion, the consequence if you are unrighteous. And you obey unrighteousness, there will be wrath and fury, there will be tribulation and distress. For every human being who does evil, the Jew first and also the Greek, glory and honor and peace. For everyone who does good, the Jew first and also the Greek. So I guess the answer is, are people happy to just wander around in their lives and have no real meaning or truth? I let every one of us think about that and answer it themselves. And then we go on to the question, if that were the case, is Christianity true? Obviously, if I'm here, I obviously believe it is true. And as a follow-up, does the Bible reveal this truth to us? I have to say, if you actually have the opportunity or time, attending the Thursday night class is actually pretty good. We had a good lesson on 2 Peter. It talks about knowledge and truth. And I really enjoyed that because it's a good reminder that the truth is actually so important. It's the core, the way you think and the way you look out at life entirely depends on what you think is true. Because we all want to live a consistent and true life. And that's why I always give that example of people who have different rules or standards for themselves as others. And they will never be happy because they know inherently that there's some cognitive dissonance, there's some inconsistency in their own thinking. Like, for example, the robber or the murderer who like a professional, not just a random murderer or robber, will always have inconsistency because they're happy robbing from others, but they don't want others to take from them. You know what I mean? So inherently, they know that there's something wrong with taking from others because they don't want to be stolen from themselves. You see them go crazy when people take their things, right? So you need that consistency in your own life. You need to live according to the truth to be truly free. And so Jesus said to him, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And that freedom is because of the consistency in your belief, your life, and your action. All right. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It means that at least you have a goal, a worthy goal to strive for. Like even Peter made mistakes, David, all of the biblical characters made mistakes. But they had a goal, both here and eternity. Christianity is about matching facts to reality. It's about establishing truth. And there's this question, can you use biblical principles without God? And most of the world is actually founded on biblical principles. That's how we ended up in Western civilization. That's how people use reason, logic, and science. That all came from Christian Enlightenment principles, that the world is understandable and knowable because God is rational being. He created us according to laws, and therefore we can seek to understand it. That's how we ended up with science. And then the question in science was, can we explain the world without God? And to some extent, they have achieved that in some fields, but there are a lot of areas that actually they haven't. And I mean, they don't talk about it much, but they like, yeah. So and that's the question I'm asking at the moment. Can you use biblical principles without God? For example, there are many biblical principles like having positive thinking, right? Or meditation, you know, or having a good attitude, positive attitude, being grateful, you know, treating others like how you would like to be treated. I mean, these are solid principles. People use them even without reference to God. But the question is it really the same without God? Because they came from the Bible, and inherently the Bible assumes that you believe in God. I put it to you that without God, all these positive ideas or principles are incomplete because they do not show the whole picture, the whole point of it all. And the question you have to then ask yourself, you know, is earthly life or eternal life more important? And that was an important question. Jesus will always ask that the rich young man, the camel to the eye of the needle question was like he wanted to know how to get to eternal life. And Jesus himself said, you know, like, what's the value of earthly life versus eternal life? And I would ask you, everyone, why would you believe in biblical principles but not in God? You know, why do you think it's good to do unto others what you would like them to do to you? Like, why is that good? Why is that a good thing if you didn't believe that, like God showed the example by giving his son to die on the cross, right? Sacrifice. You see, that's the idea. There is a basic principle underlying the truth. And if those biblical principles like being grateful for things, you know, and being thankful, having positive attitude, you know, seeking good things is true, why is God not true? And if those things are a lie, can God be true? Like, is it not good to do what to others what you want them to do to you? You know, I mean, isn't that a good thing? Isn't it good to not murder, not steal? Isn't it good to, you know, honor your parents? And do you know what I mean? Like, so the reverse has always got to be true. So we come to the last part of the lesson, and that's where we started with Philippians 4:4-13. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I'll say rejoice. Let your reasonableness or gentleness, okay, be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, without your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. You know, if you find the truth, it will lead to rejoicing. You don't have to worry about things, no anxiety. You can rely on God for everything. And as a consequence, you will find peace. I mean, the value of living a consistent life cannot be understated, right? A godly life based on God's principles. And finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any accidents, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. Practice these things and God, peace will be with you. I mean, like if you took God out of it, all of that loses meaning. You know, that's the thing. And that's the problem with what the world offers. They offer everything without God, you know. And that's just not enough. You know, it's just not enough because there's no standard. God sets the standard. You know, just filling our lives with the right things, the truth, being true. It's interesting that the first thing he says is there has to be true. It has to be true. If you fill your life with a lie, and it goes back to those questions I asked at the start, you know, like for example, abortion or euthanasia or transgenderism, you know, is it truly good or a lie? Do you know what I mean? Is it true that it's good to practice, to perform euthanasia or abortion, or to say that a man is a woman or a woman is a man? Is it true? And people, you have to address that question. And people try not to address that question. So if you live your life as a lie, you don't already start off with the right thing. So if you have to fill your life with the right thing, you know, something that's true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, excellent, and praiseworthy. And then finally, Philippians 4:11-13. Not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, I know how to abound, and in every circumstance I've learned the secret, facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Christ, through him who strengthens me. We can't help but remember the version, we memorized it on because it's such a famous passage. You know, if your mind and heart are fixed on God and the truth, it will give you the strength and ability to deal with every situation, every trial. You know, I mean, the ability to be content, like it's the opposite of materialism and narcissism, which I said earlier, or being selfish. Because you know that everything you have comes from God and he will provide and take care of you. Because you believe that the Bible is the truth and that it will cover and God will do what he says he will do. I think fundamentally that's the thing. And that is the strength to do anything by God's grace, because that's a wonderful blessing. It's a wonderful promise. And it's an amazing way to live your life. So if this kind of life, a life that is blessed, free, and true, is not the life you want, then there's nothing else Christianity can offer you. All right, because I think that is the ultimate goal. You know, is this not the life that you want and enjoy both now and eternity? To find the truth, to take hold of it, and to live it out every day. So thank you for your attention. We'll pass the time back to Daniel.